All right, thank you. And this next question is about the subject of growth. And I will call each of your names just so we don't have any confusion on starting. And so I'll start on this end with Kevin and then go in that direction. Should the city of West Linn be willing to absorb more growth and density inside its city limits? If so, where, how, and why? Who should pay for infrastructure costs? And we'll start with Kevin Bragg.
Well, I think most of our maps and plans show that we're already planning for about 25% growth within our current city limits and our buildable lands inventory. When we were working on the Robinwood neighborhood plan, we looked at the effect that infill has on our neighborhoods, and especially some of the uncontrolled infill where we were getting outsized buildings that were affecting the character and quality of our neighborhoods. And we asked that the city look at alternatives that would place more of the density in infill along our commercial corridors where the transit was. And I think that's the model that we should look for in the future. There's a lot of rumors floating around about Metro coming in and imposing a new zoning overlay on, a new density overlay on our city, and vastly increasing the density of this city. And I think that's something that our government should be resisting and not acquiescing to, or being amiable about, or trying to be friendly with our regional partners about. I think people move to West Linn for a particular reason having to do with the hills and the trees and the open space, and I think we need to protect that and we need to defend it as strongly as possible. And so I think we need to plan for the 21st century. We need to decide as a city whether we want to remain a bedroom community or we want to become a small city with a full range of urban amenities. And I think that's a process that the public has to be fully involved in and has to agree to. And from that point, we can write new codes so that further development complies with that template. And if that leads to more density and the voters want that, then that's what we should do. And if the voters want to stay small, that's what we should do.
Thank you. Jody Carson.
I think that the city will be having some additional growth. We'll experience some additional growth within its city limits. As Kevin mentioned, we do have buildable land within the city limits right now, and we need to make sure that we have infill codes so that when those units are built, that they conform or are at least compatible with existing neighborhoods. Several of the neighborhood associations in their neighborhood plans, including Robinwood and Willamette, have talked about mixed-use development along the main streets. And a mixed-use development means a combination of housing and retail in the same development. That might be a methodology for us to have some increased density along our major transit corridors and provide for some different kinds of housing types within our city. Those discussions would need to happen with those neighborhoods to see if they support that kind of development and what kind of development they would like to see. But that would be one method for us to increase the housing and retail in our city to absorb some of the density so we don't have to expand outside the city limits. I do not support expanding outside of our current city limits, but I do see us looking at for ways that we can add some additional housing and retail within our city in places where the community is. Thank you.
Mike Jones.
In the same sense that West Linn is not the same as it was 40 years ago or even 20 years ago, it will change over the next 20 years. As infill and redevelopment occurs, it is inevitable that we absorb more growth and density will increase. While I don't see this as something that will happen in the near term, it is something for which we should plan. It's really a two-edged sword. Density increases can create real problems, or they can provide benefits, such as more efficient public services. If we are going to plan for this growth wisely and well, the first place to look is our comprehensive plan and our city's development code. These are woefully inadequate. Over the next 4 years, we really need to look at infill and at our comprehensive plan and community development code. We need to reach consensus on how our city will look 20 or 40 years from now and put documents in place that guide that direction. Finally, I recognize that growth is not just a West Linn issue, but an issue that will require collaboration with many other local, regional, and state entities. If we aren't partners in the broader community, we won't be able to control the effects of cumulative growth and development.
Thank you. Gail Holmes?
I really would like to see us reach out to the neighborhood associations and making sure that we're looking at how can we infill. We all know that over time we will have more people coming to West Linn. It's a wonderful city. We all live here. We all love it. We all want to be here, and so will others. So that's where I really want to reach out to the neighborhoods, because to me, you understand your area, you understand the livability, and we need to make sure that we're addressing it in that way. I don't want to see another agency come to us and say, okay, West Linn, you need to absorb so much of the population. We need to make that decision as a city and as residents, and that's where it needs to come from. And if we don't accommodate, if we don't figure out how we're going to do some infill, then we'll be looked at to expand the UGB. And you know we don't want that, because we don't want to move into Stafford. Stafford is a very precious resource that once we use it, it would be gone. So I really would hope that we could all work together and to figure out how can we work out to this infill.
Thank you. Cameron Breik? Cayman? Okay.
I don't think that West Linn should see any more growth in the near future. I think that the city should concentrate on long-term planning. We should be worried about the integrity of our roads and our water lines more than how many homes can we put into our buildable land within the city limits. Especially in today's economy, further development should be the furthest thing from our minds. It should be the last thing that we are thinking about supporting.